people of the internet. It's been a while since I've uploaded. I'm done putting this off. I probably won't put clips because my editing software will crash again and I don't feel like learning how to use CapCut. I'm too lazy for that shit. Anyways, we are going to go over why I myself deem Whole Cake Island to be peak fiction in all of media. Okay, starts off. We're going to go into a little bit of backstory. The Straw Hats have just defeated Doflamingo and they're going to Zao. They learn Sanji's been taken by Capone Gang Beji because he's working with Big Mom, and they have to go save Sanji. So they get to Whole Cake Island, right? They meet Pudding, says meet me here. Then they see what looks like Sanji when it's really just a mirror reflection. So they go into the forest, Luffy fights Cracker, and then while they are leaving the forest, they see Sanji on the chariot. I'm going over this really fast. Luffy and Sanji get into a fight, and then Luffy has some really amazing lines when we get into this later on. I'm just trying to get a plot recap out of the way. Luffy's thrown in jail with Nami, and then it's later on revealed, then he gets freed by Jinbei. All that's happening, what's going on with Sanji. Sanji is meeting his future wife, apparently Pudding, and then what happens is he learns that if he tries to leave, they're gonna explode his hands off, which would suck because he's a cook. They're gonna kill his mentor, and then they're gonna kill the Straw Hats. And then what happens next is that Reiju says to Sanji, look, these are fake. I switched them out. I don't think they were gonna kill your mentor. They don't really care, honestly. And they're just gonna kill us. You planned on it. They planned on killing you and us for science and everything we have. Oh, wait, hold on. No, Pudding. Wait. I'm getting my memory fogged up. Hold on. No, it was Pudding after Sanji listened in on a conversation saying we just planned on killing you guys and taking your tech. Just Pudding monologue to Reiju and Pudding removed Reiju's memories, and Sanji overheard that. So then what happened was Sanji has a mental breakdown saying, my entire life is going to shit. My life sucks. I can't go on like this. But before this, a really important moment that had just seemed irrelevant. Sanji had cooked the food for the Straw Hats that he had made for months and months. He looked at it and said, wait, Luffy needs food. Because Luffy said, I refuse to eat anything unless you cook it. So he rushes to the meeting spot where Luffy said he was going to stay. This scene is so sad, but so emotionally driven. It is my favorite scene in fiction because of how far it shows the characters have come. When Sanji says to Luffy, I want to go home to the Sunny. That is, in my opinion, the most peak writing, peak character arcs, and it just has the best emotional payoff with any series I think I've ever watched. Because that small detail of him cooking the Straw Hats food was just going to seem irrelevant until he's like, I need to go feed Luffy. He's my friend. He's going to die. He's going to starve. Well, I'm going to finish this plot summary, then I'm going to go into more in-depth about some of my favorite moments and why I think this is the best fictional thing of all time. Sanji then goes with Luffy to Capone Gang Beji with Jinbei and Nami after they all leave Big Mom's castle and reveal they had a pledge to assassinate Big Mom because she's one of the emperors, and the worst generation will become, the pirates of this new generation. So they made a plan to kill Big Mom. It failed, and then the wedding got ruined. Pudding ends up falling in love with Sanji. As I said, I'm gonna get more into this later on. And then Pudding helps them. Sanji makes a new cake for Big Mom to calm her down. Luffy fights Katakuri. One of the greatest fights in the series. I'm going to get into that. And I might make a later video about why I like this fight a lot. But I'm also going to get into Katakuri's character a lot later. Because in just like a short fight, Katakuri becomes one of the greatest written characters in the series. It's actually really good. And then I'm going to say it. I'm also going to later on make a video why I like Post more than Pre, because I hate people who just say, oh, the Straw Hats became shows themselves. No, they didn't. I just think these people don't have the brain capacity to understand complex characters. All offense intended. So, we're 5 minutes into the video. I'm going to go into why I think this is a great arc. And where it starts to really become where I deem peak fiction is Sanji versus Luffy. This right here is where I genuinely think Sanji and Luffy have one of the greatest dynamics in the entire series. Because, like, some people just say, oh, it boils down to Luffy screaming, I'm hungry at Sanji, and then Sanji's like, I'll feed you later. That is what their dynamic is at times. But this arc just fleshes them out so much of just the cook and the captain. How important Luffy is to Sanji. How important Sanji is to Luffy. Because Luffy needs Sanji to cook for him. Because Sanji's like the only person who can like keep up with how much Luffy eats aside from the people at Amazon Lily. But Luffy screams at Sanji, every time you kick, you're hurting yourself. Sanji, I can't become the king of the pirates without you. And praise Goda. That scene made me cry. Because as I've said, these two are like my favorite characters in fiction. Go watch my favorite fictional characters video. Bad plug. But, and then Sanji is having the breakdown on the chariot, crying because he knows Luffy's right. Every time Sanji kicked Luffy, he's just hurting himself more. And the reason why Sanji is doing this is even more sad. Because they would kill the Straw Hats, kill his mentor, and blow off his hands. And that would suck because he's a cook. And he needs his hands for that. So everything Sanji holds dear is just like threatening to be taken away. So he's like, I have to do this. I have to. And he was already struggling with loving himself and accepting himself because of his past. And that is what his character arc boils down to in this. And it's just a beautiful character arc. And then when they get back to the castle, Sanji's like, yo, Pudding, I'm ready to get married. If you're going to be my one bright spot in my life, I want to do it as soon as I can. Because he was already going through a mental breakdown because of everything that's going on. And then later on, it's revealed that Pudding shoots his sister, the one person that really cared for Sanji when he was a kid. Because he was a failed experiment and he couldn't keep up with his siblings. So he was bullied and just like looked down upon. So he just didn't know how to handle it anymore. So when he hears Pudding say that, oh, I don't care about that cook. If you're gonna give me a prince, give me a real one. He's just a failure in the experiment. Because that's what everyone told everyone about Sanji. So he's just there after cooking food that he made for the Straw Hats. After so many years, so he's just there, standing in the rain, having a breakdown. He's inside about to have a mental breakdown, but he holds it in. And then he looks down at the food he made. And praise Goda, oh my god, peak writing. And he's just there like, wait, Luffy needs food. And this looks like he might not make it. Because like Luffy had just escaped. And we don't know if he had made it to the tree yet. We don't know if he had made it. So Sanji's just rushing to get to the tree to feed Luffy. And Luffy's on the brink of starvation. So then what happens is he just rushes to the tree, and then he sees Luffy shriveled up. Sanji is so relieved that Luffy is there. He kept his promise to be there when Sanji returns with the food so Luffy can eat. It is peak fiction. And then when Luffy finally punches some sense into him, he's like, I'm your captain. You're coming with me. I don't care. Sanji finally admits it. He breaks down after everything. He says, Luffy, I want to go home to the Sunny. Oh my god. It is such great writing and character development. Because Sanji finally learns the Straw Hats, Luffy, are his family no matter what. He learned they are his found family. And part of this arc, when Sanji also in this moment Sanji realizes that he should love himself with his new family. He should love himself and accept his flaws. Because that is what this arc teaches the reader. Love yourself and accept your flaws. I went into that in my top 10 favorite characters video and every Straw Hat ranked. I struggled with that for a little while. When I was younger, as I said before, I was a wimp. I was a baby. I didn't know how to handle it. I've been different my life, and I was ashamed of that. Until I saw this moment, and I learned your flaws are what make you beautiful. Don't change for others. Be yourself. I'm gonna make a whole video on just why I love these two characters one day. This moment teaches the reader, love yourself, accept your flaws. You're beautiful because of that. Sanji was called a failure his whole life. Because he was a failure of an experiment, basically. He could still feel emotion. He could feel empathy, sympathy, all that. And he was ridiculed for it. He was ashamed of it. Because he thought he was just a failure his whole life. But then Reiju, his sister, says, Sanji, you're different. You care. You can feel. You're not, don't be ashamed, you're beautiful. You are kind, loving, caring. You are everything Mom would have wanted you to be, and his mom quite literally died trying to protect her sons, and so they could feel emotion, but she was able to save Sanji. It was just a beautiful moment, and then every time I see this moment or even think about it, I cry just because how emotional and how much I love this scene. It's my favorite scene in fiction because this one moment just taught me I should love myself and accept my flaws. I shouldn't be ashamed of being different. I just love it, and then it just shows Luffy and Sanji, they see each other as brothers now, and they can't ever be separated. Again, they are family. It is such a beautiful moment that they are family. It's a great moment for both of them. It is Sanji's arc, this whole arc, just, you're beautiful because of your flaws. It's such a great moment, and I love it. And the Sunny, he literally says, I want to go home to the Sunny, showing that he considers the Sunny and the Straw Hats his home and family. It's my favorite moment in fiction. As I've said, I've gone on for this scene like 4 minutes now. And then the tea party, the wedding, and the Big Mom stuff. It's still all great, because this is when, in my opinion, I think all of this, like the build-up, was the best part of the arc. But even then, the wedding and everything else is great. They go to Kambon Gang Beji, and then they try to assassinate Big Mom. It fails, but Pudding had just said, I hate Sanji, but then all it takes is Sanji to say one thing, and as I said, your flaws are what make you beautiful. Pudding realizes that her third eye isn't a flaw, because all that Sanji did was call it beautiful, and she learns to accept her flaws. That is this arc, learning to love yourself and accept your flaws. It's just such a great moment in storytelling and writing that inspired me to write as well. I'm trying to write my own series, and so much of it was inspired by Sanji, Luffy, Thorfinn, Whole Cake Island, One Piece, Vinland Saga, Invincible. Because Whole Cake Island is probably my biggest inspiration. My main character is literally based on Thorfinn, Luffy, and Sanji, but mostly Sanji. But I'm also gonna have to move on from this moment and talk about Katakuri, the best character introduced in this arc. What happened? Luffy and Katakuri basically had a mirror match. But Katakuri always had the upper edge until Luffy had a Hockey Bloom. They fought for 12 hours. I don't think people realize how impressive that is for Luffy, because he started off a lot weaker than Katakuri. But in this one fight, Katakuri gets a whole character arc, because he wasn't ashamed of his mouth. Again, a flaw that people saw in him. He wasn't ashamed of his mouth, but he had to cover it because his family was being beaten for it, and because of him. He was like, I'm not letting my family go through this. If people want me to cover my mouth, he does. It's just a great character moment because Katakuri was apparently perfection. But then when people saw his mouth, the illusion of perfection was shattered. Right there. Flaws in loving yourself. Katakuri had to learn to love himself again. And not just be the image of perfect in the Charlotte family. And then, even then, he had such a great introduction. I don't like ore farming characters, as they're called, but like, Katakuri is a quote-unquote ore farmer, as people would probably call him nowadays. And just a great written character. He's one of the greatest One Piece characters. He's like my second favorite villain, right behind Crocodile. It's just such a great character arc in this one fight, from him going from perfect to I'm not perfect, but I'm going to accept it. And at the end of this fight, Luffy and Katakuri have a respect for each other. Katakuri says, yo, you won. Collapses on his back. His 99 win streak is gone. But Luffy, out of respect, covers his mouth for him. Go to level rating! That's what I don't like. People say, oh, post time, skip all the characters. No! Pay attention and you'd understand. And then, what else happens in the arc? Jinbei Jinbei had a great character moment of saying, look, I'm gonna go help my old crew, but I promised you, Luffy, I'll join your crew. What happens? Wano, he joins. It's just such a great arc, and this video has gone on long enough. See you guys.